Thank you so much everyone for joining this session. Let's move on to the next session on. So let me introduce Pankajam Sridevi, Managing Director of Commonwealth Bank of Australia in India. Pankajam Sridevi has over 34 years of rich experience in diverse segments, ranging from manufacturing to technology and to banking domains. She is passionate about building a learning and innovative organization through continued improvements and transformation. She is passionate about diversity at workplace and keen to get women and persons with disability and LGBTI persons in the workplace. She is also a winner of many awards herself. Pankajam has been conferred with prestigious honors such as NCPEDP Helen Keller Award for making a difference to communities. She has recently won the Women CEO of the Year Award from GISR Foundation in 2020. Iconic Leaders Creating a Better World for All Award at Women Economic Forum WEF Bangalore 2020, and the most recent recipient of India's Top 30 Emerging Tech Leaders at the Intelligent Automation India. This is such an aspiring and inspirational speaker profile I have seen. So I'm really excited to listen from Pankajam Sridevi. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation. Over to you.
Hi, thank you, Sandhya. Good morning, everyone. Hope you and your family are keeping safe. I want to start with a story. I was in one of the events in Cochin organized by Trivandrum Engineering College, which is the oldest college in Kerala. Their alumni had invited a few women to bestow them with Eminent Women Awards. And, the 4 women that were there, where one of that was me. I'm very proud of that. But there were 2 other women. One was, you might have heard about her. Her name is Tessie. She's known as the Missile Woman of India. She holds a very high position in ISRO, and she was responsible for, the entire missile activity of India. And then it was another lady. She was 1960 IAS. Her name was Aruna Sundararajan. She was responsible for building the SEZ in Kerala, and also she was the Telecom Secretary of India. So, there were a room full of women and of course a few men. And our job as women leaders was to inspire them. And the first person to be called was Tessie. She goes to the stage and she says, "Thank you for the award. Thank you for acknowledging me, but I want to tell you that I have not achieved anything. I've achieved a little bit with the support of a lot of people around me." And I got surprised. Why is Tessie saying this? She's such an accomplished woman. And then comes Aruna, 1960 IAS officer, and she says, "I'm humbled. Thank you for this acknowledgement, but I must tell you that I have not done enough for you to acknowledge me." And the third person was me. And I'm like, why are these 2 eminent women saying that they have not achieved anything? And my walk to the podium was the hardest, I must tell you, because I was torn between the humility that 2 great women leaders showed and the requirement to say that I'm an achiever because I believe in that. And I walk up to the podium and I decided to shed the so-called humility because I am humble, but I want to say that I'm an achiever and I want to inspire the women in the room. And I told that I do not agree with Madam Tessie and Aruna. In their place, if there were 2 men, they would have come with their collars up saying that, "Hey, I achieved a lot." So I told them, why do you say this? This is not about humility, and I'm an achiever. If I have been hired by one organization, a very big Australian bank, to be their leader, to lead 14,000 people, and then I was hired by another Australian bank, which is 4 times the earlier bank, to become their CEO, I will not just say that I'm not an achiever. I have achieved something. I have achieved a lot. And there was a lot of clap in the room. And why I'm telling you this is because when you're in your career, we look at a lot of inspiration around us. But let's not forget to be inspired by us. That is the first step in building a resilient career. And many a times we just wonder, what have I done? And we undermine ourselves. Undermining ourselves is very different to being humble. I have a lot of respect for the two women who were with me, but I think that we need to be inspired by ourselves. All of us have a story of inspiration. And if we do not get inspired by ourselves, we will put a lot of our resilience in moving us up to show that or to prove to ourselves and eliminate the self-doubt that we have in ourselves. So the first thought that I want to leave with you is that look into your career, look into your professional life, look into your personal life, and be inspired by yourself. Because that is the first step to building a great career. And why do you need resilience in career? I think I need resilience in career because I need to reach the northern star or the goal that I have set for myself. And when I set a goal for me, I would make it irrationally aspirational. If my goal is not irrationally aspirational, then I don't think that resilience will play a role. Just to float around in an industry, which we don't want to do, just to float around, you just need to work. However, if you want to meet your irrational aspiration, then you need to build your career. And friends, remember that career, we say it's a career is a path. It's a path to success. So there are various steps that you need to take to follow your northern star or to follow the aspiration that you set for yourself. And one of them, and the most important, is learning. Why is it important? Because today, the pace at which technology is changing is just unbelievable. And it is very good for us that technology is changing like that. I'm very envious of you young women who are really in this era, of where you have the great opportunity because technology is changing. However, it is so important to remain relevant. And how do you remain relevant? I was just listening to the speakers earlier, and there are so many opportunities for you to really read, understand, learn, listen to podcasts, read blogs. Women in Code is giving you a stage for you to learn and continuously learn. Please do not get bogged down by priorities that you have set for yourself to be there as a superwoman for your family, for your neighbors, for your brother, for your sister, for your brother-in-law, for your sister-in-law. I'm not saying it is not important. It's very, very important. But the resilience that you have to show to build your career is equally important. So the way I did while I was moving in my career is to prioritize things that I thought that is very important to me and not what is important to my neighbor. Many a times we try to impress everyone and go forward with our career, and that bogs us down. Friends, my second input to you is prioritize and do things that make you happy, make you the person that you want to be, make you the person who brings the soul to work. So learn continuously. There is no stoppage to learning, and that demonstrates a growth mindset. Many a times people have asked me, how do we manage a situation when things are not going well for you? There is no career where everything will go well. In my own career, I was made redundant when I started working in a technology organization. But when I look back, I think that's the best thing that happened to me because that brought the best in me. And I must tell you a story here. I was desperately looking for a job when I was made redundant because we had just bought a flat. My husband was not very keen, but I said, no, I think we need a house of our own. And then I'm earning this in the technology organization, and I bought the house. Very few days later, I just found that my job is under threat and I'm going to get into redundancy. And I went for an interview, and I was getting interviewed with a very senior guy in that organization. And as we were getting interviewed, I found that that person has lot of bias. So he told me that many a times I think that women cannot stay up and be late. They cannot work late. Imagine at that time, I was doing an infrastructure job in that organization, and I used to go home only at 10 in the night. So I'm like, how dare he make this statement? But then I thought about my EMI and I said, oh my God, I want this job, so I'm going to keep quiet. And then he said, I really have to work. And when I work, I want everybody in my team to be present. Because I'm working late, I want everybody to be present there. I'm sure there are bosses like that even today. I don't know why, but there are bosses like that. I just couldn't stop my thought. I said, hell with it. I'm not going to work for this man. But my face reflected that I'm not happy. So he asked me, do you have any comment on this statement of mine? I'm like, no, sir, I don't have any comment. He said, no, it looks like that you have something to tell me. And I just exploded. I thought, I'm not going to take this bias. And I said, I stay back late when I have job and not when my boss has job. I must tell you that that person used to hunt me down in the organization, but I felt that I showed resilience to say that I have confidence that I will find another job. And I must tell you that I continued to work in that organization. I grew in that organization, and that helped me to get another job. But why I tell this story is that you need resilience at every stage in our life, at every stage in our career. And resilience is about a lot about confidence. And confidence will come when you have that northern star, you're following a direction, and you're also very keen to achieve that. And we continue in that journey. We don't give up. And I heard speakers who were there earlier to me talk about networking. I think the way to look at your career is to consider how much of work do you do on the transactional side. Many a times we are into transactional leadership, lot of activities which are very important for the organization, but which has to be classified under transactional activities. And the next set of activities that we do are transformational activities, So we have a combination of transactional activities and transformational activities in our job. But the third one is networking activities, networking leadership. So if I say, I don't need to call it as transactional activities, but I'll say transactional leadership, transformational leadership, and networking leadership. If you look at the combination of activities that you do in a job, if you're moving away from transactional to transformational to networking, I think then you're progressing in your career. See, a progression in a career is just not promotions. It's just not getting more salary. It is an important aspect. There is no doubt about it. But progression in a job is more learning, getting to lean into different people, learning from them, understanding from them, having a friend at work with whom you can confide, taking feedback. Somebody said earlier, it's a very important aspect to take feedback from people you trust. Therefore, trust and self-reflection has to be built by ourselves so that, we are always on the right path. We will have difficulties while we are going through, and difficulty is defined by us. Someone will say, oh, this is very easy. It might be easy for you, but not easy for me. So we need to understand what is it that excites us. If we do not have a job that does not excite us, then it's time to move on. And when I talk about moving on, I want to ask you, how many of you go and update your LinkedIn profile at least once a month? How many of you read through your resume at least once a month? Why I'm asking this question is, gone are the days. Let me put a disclaimer here. I'm not suggesting that any one of you must leave your current job, but I'm only telling that gone are the days when we talk about resume when we don't like a boss, or when we think that your job is in danger. That's not when you write a resume these days. You constantly keep looking at what are you bettering at? What are you better at? You constantly do that. And your LinkedIn profile must have the key words that describe you. This is again to instill that pride in you. This is again to make you, make you available for things that are interesting you. And the very important fact is that you should not be hunting for jobs. Jobs should come hunting for you. And that's when you can feel very proud of yourself. That is the point when you know that things are going very, very well for you. And that doesn't happen easily. There are so many conflicting things that are there in a woman's life. Sangeeta, who opened this, told about it. So many things. But if we prioritize, if we focus on the right aspects, then automatically the jobs will start flowing in. You will get nudge on your shoulder. Does not mean that you must leave the job, but it's very important. That's a test of how we manage our careers. I want to give you another story. This is a very touching story in my mind. And many a times we look for role models in the technology space or in the space of professionals, but these two women that I met are really role models for me in resilience in job. So they are, I went to meet a NGO group, not really knowing what is exactly they do. But then I realized that they are really rehabilitating women, from the slums. So I happened to meet this Ganga Ben and Sneha Ben. They were talking about their story, and they told me that they make kites and incense sticks. So you know that kites and incense sticks are sold very seasonally. So it's not like 12 months they will have work. So to take care of their children, they did another part-time job, and that was sex workers. They were sex workers part-time, and they were also making these kites and incense sticks. But when these NGOs intervened and told them about the health, threats that can happen due to these issues. Job. And is there an echo? Okay, I'll continue. So when they did this, these NGOs came to rehabilitate them. It's really difficult to rehabilitate. And they told me the story that I have a new job now. And I asked them, what is your job now? And they say, we are power auditors. And I had no clue what power auditors were. But they understood from my body language that I'm not understanding what they are telling. And they told me that in slums, you have only 1 meter. So you have 1 meter for 25 houses or 30 houses. Electricity meter, I meant. So these women, every house has got a set of activities that they have to do, like ironing or pumping water, etc. So they can only use this power for certain activities that are defined by the group. And these women were power auditors who would go and look at whether they are doing any other activity or not. They have these papers, they have these signatures. So they changed their job. They showed so much of resilience to learn. They had no idea about what they had to do. And that's resilience in job. Learning something absolutely new, going into the ambiguous world, and just continuing to change their life from being part-time sex workers to really being a professional. If Sneha Ben can do that, I'm sure that every one of us can get into ambiguous jobs, get into any area that interests us, anything that is so important for the society. We can just get in there, we can shine, we can come out in flying colors. These are the women who inspire us. And I'm very sure that if you look around, you will find inspiring leaders, you will find inspiring women, and you will also be inspired by yourself. I want to end by saying that please look for jobs that interest you within your organization. There could be a lot of programs and projects that are there in the newest technology which will be looking for people. Nobody will come and tell you, can you do this job also, Pankajam? Nobody will say that. But if you put up your hand, one time it may not happen, next time it may happen, but the third time it will happen. But you have to put up your hand for ambiguous jobs. Why I say that is because you learn the most when you do an ambiguous job. Do not give up on opportunities without even looking at what it is. Most of the time we say that we are slow to react, and therefore we lose the opportunity. Resilience is about reacting very, very quickly in micro nanoseconds and saying that I will do the job. And learn it, lean in into others, learn. I'm sure that we are as good or better than the male colleagues that are around who jump into opportunities because they have the confidence of managing ambiguous work, whereas we are always looking at, am I done everything do I know everything to take up this job? So friends, resilience in job is in your career is absolutely a critical element for success. If you have not set your aspirational targets irrationally, go ahead and do it and have a great career. Let's move from women who code to women who lead. Thank you.
Amazing, Pankajam. Thank you so much for those insightful keynote. And we believe this is one of the best keynotes once again that we heard from you. So there are a couple of questions, Pankajam, and we are really excited to hear about the transactional to transformational to networking leadership that you talked about. I'm sure all of us are in some journey in this, train of leadership. But there is one popular question that comes up in the chat. Any tips on networking across organizations and across your comfort zone to meet new strange people in this virtual world, especially? So do you have any tips on networking leadership?
I think, first time when you speak, you can just say hello and how are you, etc. But having a topic of interest, which you would like to pursue further is one way of having a professional network. And, you can have a personal network, you can have a professional network, and you can also have a very, kind of inspirational network. In network also, you have inspirational network, so somebody whom you think is so good that I want to connect with them. And I have seen that, I have done that with very senior leaders who are inspirational to me. Try on LinkedIn. I've seen that the third time you try on LinkedIn, they will respond. That is what I have seen. It is just a blind advice, but many a times, people will respond. That is one thing. The other one is understand the person. Try to talk to the people who are around the person with whom you want to connect. And, you get an insight into what interests them and what is the common interest between them and me. That's what I would check. And then I would try to create a conversation. I'm telling you, friends, it is not difficult to network. The myth that you need to network on a cigarette or on a glass of wine is a myth. It is a complete myth. People talk on subjects. People talk on interesting anecdotes. People talk on sports. Now we have pandemic and its impact. But what I want to tell is, if you want to network, it is not just technology that will help. It is the overall kind of scope that you have to build and the capability that you have to build as a social being that will help you to network better. That is the professional network that I'm talking about. But personal network is very simple. I read somewhere, and a friend of mine was telling, he never liked that boss. But every time he spoke to that boss, he would say, how's your family? How's your son? How's your daughter? Simple questions like that will build a connect, friends. So just try talking. That's all I would say as an advice for networking.
Thank you very much, Pankajam. I think that's a useful advice. So one last question, Pankajam. I know we are running out of time, and there are so many questions that's coming in. But one thing that we took away from your keynote is to be raising hands for ambitious jobs and having aspirational targets. But it also has another impact. We as women generally. How about the imposter syndrome? Have you ever come across that? Have you overcome that? Could you please touch on imposter syndrome and how to put that?
I've had imposter syndromes even in the current job that I'm doing. It is a tough job because it's a new organization. They have never had any interactions. Commonwealth Bank of Australia is for the first time setting up a center in India. Of course, we have had a partnership with other organizations. So when things go difficult, I just wonder, is it because of me? Is it because I'm not able to impress the organization that India is a great talent, But that's normal. That's very normal, but it's very high in women, because I must tell you, it's because of our self-doubt. And why are we self-doubting? Because we mix up capability with humility. If we can segregate these two and say that I'm capable to do this job, there is nobody better than me to do this job. And that's what I tell myself when I get into that imposter syndrome. And I'm very sure about it, my friends, that if anybody can build Commonwealth Bank of Australia, it is Pankajam. I'm very sure about it. So the way to get over imposter syndrome is to look into yourself. Be very confident of yourself. Be very inspired by yourself and tell yourself and remove that self-doubt, that kind of noise that happens in your head. Remove it by yourself and speak to your closest friend. I must tell you, if you don't have a very close friend to whom you can confide and say that I have this voice in my head, it will become difficult. But I must tell you that you must say that I'm the best. If you say that, that imposter syndrome will automatically go away. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pankajam. Definitely a great start for us today on Women Who Code Connect 2021. I think each one of us here, and the way that I see the messages, we are all going to prioritize self first. We are going to take an oath that we are going to manage situations accordingly and definitely not try to impress everyone everywhere. These are some of the key takeaways that we have from your keynote. And thank you for being with us today. And I'm sure it is too early for you. You're in other side of the world. And we are very, very privileged to have you today here. And we'll certainly be balancing about resilience, confidence, and be working towards achieving our goals, and always try to set our goals higher day on day. Thank you so much, Pankajam, for having you here today.
Thank you, Jayan, and thank you, Soumya. Really enjoyed the talking to you all. Thank you. Stay safe. Bye.
Thank you, Pankajam.